Okay, hopefully this is working. We're just gonna give folks a couple minutes to hop on and join in. And it's giving me all sorts of prompts. My phone is sideways, obviously, so I'm just... Okay. It's just trying to tell me. Oh, there we go. There's my talk. And back to me. Ah, good old Joshua Thomas is watching. That's all we need, isn't it? All right, we've got two. I apologize, I'm sitting directly in front of a window, so. Yes, I know the view is sideways, but that's gonna frame my computer better. So if that's a huge issue, then I can reconfigure my setup, but just let me know. So hopefully you're not watching this on laptops where you have to, but maybe if you're on a phone or an iPad, you can just turn it as well. That was my hope. Okay, apparently I should probably reconfigure, so just forgive the chaos that is about to ensue. I had a very elaborate setup here. It involved masking tape and clothespins and coasters and books, but let's see. This is gonna get more exciting when I try and put my computer up, so. But right now we can all just see my face. Let's see, maybe I can get the clothespin situation back. It was bound to be awkward the first time, so somebody had to take the bait on that one. Happy to help out. Couldn't find my little phone tripod, so that's why we're totally jerry-rigging all of this. All right. Hopefully that does, if it falls in the middle of it, we'll all just, work on that together. Okay. So like I said, we're just giving folks a couple minutes to hop on, but I guess I'll just explain a little bit how I anticipate this will go. So I'm going to give a short, about 30-minute-esque presentation. There's a visual component, which is why, oh, there it goes. Oh gosh. All right. This is going so well, everybody. All right, let's see if I can't put something else behind it. My coffee cup, perhaps? Okay. We're just rolling with punches. Like I was saying, we've got about a 30-minute presentation about social media and your social media usage, and specifically for freelance musicians, which is what I am. I am a professor, adjunct professor of saxophone at Middle Tennessee State University, which is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, about 40 minutes away from Nashville, where I live and am based out of. So I operate as a freelancer, freelance saxophonist and multi-instrumentalist in the Nashville area. If you have questions throughout the talk, I believe that there's an option for you to post a comment. If you have a question, feel free to drop it into the comments, or you can hold them for the end. I won't answer them in the middle, but as long as you put it there, I should be able to come back and scoop it at the end. The questions could be about the presentation itself, or could just be about my experiences as a modern freelancer living in this area or freelancing in general. So feel free. Any questions, we'll take those at the end. Well, this is exciting. So we've got, according to my view count, we have 88 people watching, which is so exciting. I'm flattered. Thanks for joining us. Thanks as well to Nathan Nab for putting all of this together. So this is really going to be an exciting resource for all of us. And I can't wait to never go back and watch the first 5 minutes of this, because it was paralyzingly awkward. So I'm going to flip the camera around. and reposition my phone and my elaborate coffee cup tripod setup. And great. So this is going to be our view for the next little bit. Oh, goodness. All right, give me 18 and a half seconds to do this one more time. I just need to put my clothespin and masking tape tripod a little bit higher up on the coasters that they're living on. This is just phenomenally exciting. Alrighty, maybe if I just lean it up against, oh, there we go. We don't even barely need those. All right, so hopefully you can all see the screen. Forgive the black spot at the bottom. It is my coffee cup, which is acting as a beautiful tripod. Alrighty, so we'll just go ahead and get started. The title of the talk is #relevant social media for the freelance musician, of course. And this presentation will address several areas of social media management for freelancers, including tips, action items that you can do right now, today, this week, and things to remember as you negotiate your online presence. It will focus primarily on the Instagram platform. However, before we truly dive in, I just want to mention that I am not an expert in this area. The material included in this presentation was gathered through a combination of research, personal experience, and interviews that I conducted with my colleagues who are also freelancers. So I use my own profile as an example, but even my own profiles are not perfect. So just bear with me on that. So first, we must recognize the purpose of social media for freelancers. And this is different than how your friends and family may use it, and I want you to remember that that's okay. Your platforms, specifically, we're going to talk about Instagram today, operate as a virtual billboard, which showcases your skills to potential clients. And so you should treat them accordingly. We hear the word brand, quote unquote, used a lot in conjunction with social media use nowadays. So when it comes to your brand, I ask you to consider the following questions. First, how do you want to present yourself to clients? What do you want potential clients to know about you and your skills? Do you play multiple genres? Are you constantly seeking to improve? Do you collaborate with others? Do you work frequently? Are you a generally happy person? These are all things to consider. So let's start with just a few questions. First off, where are you active? Are you active on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter? How accessible are your profiles to potential clients? Is there a certain destination you want those clients to arrive at? For example, your website where you have your scores for sale or your CDs for sale or have all of your tour dates kind of in one spot. So are your profiles organized cyclically so that they consistently end up linking to that destination, linking to your website? How many clicks does it take for someone to get from any entry point, i.e. your Instagram page, to that final destination, your website? If you don't have any accounts, which is totally fine, consider possibly creating an account. And if you do have accounts, consider whether or not they may be worth investing a little bit more time into. As a freelancer, your career is your business. Employers, in my experience, will absolutely seek out your profiles when you put in for a gig. So you should make sure that you're always proud of what you post. The purpose of your profiles is to highlight what's current with your business. In that vein, you want to display your brand, those questions that we asked a moment ago. Display your brand both confidently and accurately. Who you are, what you sound like, what your creative essence is. And I want to speak for a moment about this idea of variety versus niche. So you can't necessarily reach broad audiences effectively. For example, if you're a jazz player, you can't reach all jazz saxophonists effectively. But think about how strong the connections are between the people who actually genuinely care about what you might be doing in a niche sense. For example, if you're super interested in traditional jazz, or you have a particular affinity for Ellington ballads, then you're going to have stronger relationships with the people that share those specific interests than necessarily with all jazz saxophonists. So the NASA conference, where this presentation was initially given, is a great example of that. In the grand scheme of things, variety, the music industry at large cares a very small amount about the saxophone. But all of us who attend these conferences are very passionate about the saxophone. And the most important element of this variety versus niche discussion is to remember that narrowing your focus will not alienate your audience. In fact, it could have the opposite effect. And lastly on this slide, self-promotion. We always use this term, shameless self-promotion, or what have you. And self-promotion is just a reality of living in the freelance market. The people you're trying to reach on Instagram are generally not your friends, not the folks you went to high school with or see in the grocery store. And those are the ones who are going to see you as self-centered. So the people who you are trying to reach are much more likely to understand why you operate your online presence in this way of shameless self-promotion or what have you. So, as I mentioned prior, if you work a lot, if you gig a lot, you're considered valuable and professional by your community and those who know you. So if it looks like you work a lot and you prioritize showing yourself working, others who don't know you personally can potentially reach the same conclusion. However, I think we all need to remain acutely aware of the toxicity that's often associated with social media. And as you're engaging with your profiles, to continuously ask yourself ethically, am I helping or harming other people through my current level of this self-promotion? And above all else, it is so important, I believe, that we lift up the successes of others and encourage a strong sense of positivity online. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So these are a couple of just quick points that we'll talk about in terms of action items and tips to start working your profiles. The first is consistency. So you want to make sure that your brand is consistent through visuals by your own editing, editing your photos to make sure that they all have sort of a consistent look to them. Or you can use free, easy-to-use apps. I personally like Canva, which is actually the site that is hosting this presentation. And it is a great app that I use to design my posts, my stories, posters that I design for shows that I'm playing, and lots more like presentations such as this one. And additionally, with that consistency, posting consistently allows you to stay relevant and up to date and keep people in the loop about what you're doing. Next, we have content, specifically photos I want to mention. Shots of you playing are fantastic, and they're super important to help build that identity of being a working musician. So see if you can network with a local photographer, if you are friends with a photographer, or you can seek out a photographer. Potentially, they might be willing to trade skills for content, so you can offer them a free ticket to shoot your gig. Headshots are really an interesting thing for me personally I've experienced. I have achieved a high quality of photo work using just my iPhone and a self-timer. So you can do a lot with the tiny magical computer that we all hold in our pockets. And finally, authenticity. It's important that you engage with your feed on a personal level. Behind the scenes photos are great. Occasional videos of you practicing, which we can also use to promote a future performance. So if you shoot a short clip of you working on a passage in a piece and say, oh gosh, this is just my first entry point, my first week into this piece. Here's what it sounds like day one. Make sure to come on by to the performance in a couple months and see how it sounds then. All right, these 3 words are super important. Everything that you post should fall into one of the following 3 categories. These 3 to be exact. So up first is entertainment. This could be a clip of you playing from a show, or a clip of you practicing, or a shot of a performance that you gave. The second would be education, possibly explaining or highlighting a piece of gear that you use and why you use it or why you love it. And finally, emotion. For example, the venue that you're playing at was important to you because it's where you went to see your first concert. So all your posts should fall into one of these 3 categories. All right, into the meat and potatoes of it. Well, I'm vegetarian, so into the tofu and potatoes of it. Here are some action items. These are certain measurable ways that you can sort of play the game on social media, meaning being more intentional about how you present yourself online. So this will also serve to draw folks to your account and help your content reach more eyes, which could lead to getting hired, which is kind of, I think, what we're all out for. So the first is to keep content varied. You can use a combination of photos and videos to keep things interesting. Maintaining a personal touch. Remember that these are all people that you're interacting with online, so you want to stay human as much as you can. Post frequently, but not too much. Posting 7 photos in a day is too much, but posting 1 photo in a day or 1 photo every couple of days is much better. Interacting with users when the opportunity presents itself. For example, if someone leaves a comment on your page or sends you a direct message, it's a great idea to respond to that message or reply to that comment. Showcasing a wide range of skills. If you play more than one genre or are interested in more than one style, are fans of different artists, or play at a bunch of different venues, these are all things that you can show. A really important one is tagging, using location tags and hashtags to increase traffic. It's so important, in fact, that we'll have a whole slide on that coming next. Linking any current projects or gigs, if you have them. Maybe you just released a CD. You can put a link to that CD or where it can be purchased or listened to right in your bio for easy access. And making sure that your photos, especially your profile photo, is professional and sized correctly. We don't want your head to be cut off at the top, of course. So I want to talk just briefly about your bio, your Instagram bio, that is. And I encourage you to look at it through the eyes of your ideal client. Again, so what do you want them to see or know about you really quickly? Keeping it succinct, keeping it easily digestible, and ordered in what you want people to most remember about you. So if you can see on mine, which I don't know that you can, but the top line says saxophonist / multi-instrumentalist. That's the most important thing I want people to know about me. The second line is a link to the profile of my jazz combo. That's another place that I want people to know that I'm involved. The third line is a link to the school that I teach at. So it shows that I'm on faculty at this school, and you can click on this link to find that school. And then fourth is my hobby. I happen to be a runner, and I work with a couple of brands with that. So it's important to me that people know that I'm a runner. I post about running on occasion, possibly more than on occasion. So I want people to know that I'm a runner, but it's not the most important thing about me. And then the last line is, it says Nashville. So if I want to be hired to play in Nashville, I want people to know that I am in Nashville, that I live here, and that I'm based out of Nashville. And someone encouraged me to zoom in. I'm scared to touch anything, so I'm not gonna zoom in case my phone falls over and we have to restart the whole setting, propping it up against my coffee cup process. But I've got a link to my profile in a couple of different places associated with this talk. So in the next hour or so, you can totally feel free to go and check that out if you need it. All right. So we're going to talk about tagging just briefly. Tagging both counts and also using hashtags increases the traffic on your posts by allowing it to appear in other areas of the app. So if you tag a brand in your photo that you use, then your photo will appear in the tagged photos of that brand's page, which will get more eyeballs on your content. So tag away. I tag lots of things. The daily trending hashtags are something that you can look up every day. If there is something that is related to what you're posting, maybe you add that to your list of hashtags that you include to get more eyes. If you're playing at a different venue or you're located in a specific place, you can location tag saying, I'm playing at Carnegie Hall, or I am based in Nashville, Tennessee. Relevant pop culture references. I love this one. This was one a friend gave me. Apparently, in the end of The Joker, there was a big band arrangement of something, and she's a jazz singer, so she covered that jazz tune and was able to tag it with all sorts of things like Joker and Marvel and all of that, which was, a really hot button topic at that time. I also, like I said, I tag lots of brands that I utilize, even if I'm not, technically affiliated with the brand. It helps to let people know the gear that I'm using, which is, again, falls into that education category, and also has my photo pop up on lots of different things. And then, of course, if you're collaborating with anybody or there are other players in the photo, it's helpful to sort of share the love, spread the love, and tag them as well. So timing of engagement allows your post to flourish. So it's important to get people interacting quickly before the Instagram algorithm covers it up. And speaking of the algorithm, interacting with other accounts like yourselves will increase the likelihood of your content appearing on similar users' explore pages, which is an excellent way to get more folks engaging with your profile. And by that I mean, if we're all sort of in this tiny world of classical saxophonists and we are engaging with each other's profiles a lot, then somebody that we don't know who is also a classical saxophonist who we're not connected with yet may have some of our content pop up on their explore page, which is maybe something that you don't go to all the time, but can kind of coalesce a lot of your interests into one page and does just that. It allows you to explore new profiles. Additionally, the more you use the functions of the app, the more the algorithm rewards you. So if you use your stories and you use the Instagram Live function or you use the Instagram TV function, the app tends to reward you for the more that you use it. So this is just an example of some photos. These are like aggressively tagged photos, but they kind of prove the point. So on the left, I have, it looks like 16 different tags on that, which is way too many. But this was a post that I used to announce all the shows that I was playing in the entire month of December. So the top 8 are all the venues that I was playing at throughout that month. The right 4 are some of my collaborators and artists that I was working with that month. And the left 4 are 4 of the brands that I most frequently use their products. On the right is the post I used to announce the talk I was giving at NASA. I tagged several brands. I tagged NASA and I tagged the Women in Jazz organization. So make sure your personality appears on your profile. We're all human beings and we want to show that. Users are excellent sleuths and they will absolutely know if you aren't being yourself. So if you have a hobby, showcase it. Like I said, I love running. I am a big trail running fan, so I love to use any and all excuse to post beautiful photos of mountains that I've been running in. This one is from a trip to Colorado last summer, and it was a beautiful day. Your stories, your Instagram stories, are a great place to show that personality and post things that don't belong permanently on your feed because they go away within 24 hours. So, for example, inspirational quotes, silly memes. The place for your silly memes is on your stories and not on your feed. This is a great way to celebrate the great things that your peers are doing. All of that can be on your stories, which again will go away within 24 hours unless you add them to your little highlight reel, which is not something that we talked about, but something I can happily discuss in that question portion of this. Consider your follower versus engagement ratio. How many followers do you have versus how many people typically view your content, like your photos or view your videos? Think about following a hashtag that is relevant to your work and engaging and interacting with the profiles of other folks that are using that hashtag so they could become aware of you as well. This kind of goes back to that explore page point that I made. So if you can follow hashtags so that when somebody posts a photo with a certain hashtag, like hashtag classical saxophone, if you follow that hashtag, then anytime somebody uses it, it'll alert you. And you can interact with that profile in the hopes that you can sort of build a relationship with that person or engage with their content, and then they'll engage with your content. So this is a great way to seek out potential followers. And if you don't love the idea of I'll follow you if you follow me, then this is a wonderful alternative approach to that. So as we begin to conclude the presentation portion of this, I want to leave you all with one final very important message, which is this. It is crucial that we support one another online. Sharing each other's projects, lifting up each other's successes, celebrating when one of us has a performance by posting about it or attending it if we're able. I was fortunate to have a conversation with Roxy Koss when she performed here in Nashville a month or so ago, and something she said that night really struck a chord with me, and it's the left portion of this slide. The industry doesn't need to be a place that is weighed down by competition, and encouragement can be hard to find at times, especially if you live in a particularly saturated environment, like you're in college and everybody in your studio just seems like they're thriving and you just are struggling with your A-flat scale. We all have been there. Or maybe you live in a city that is a really saturated music market, such as Nashville. We're all fighting for a slice of legitimacy in a broad, wide-spanning industry, and so it does nobody any benefit if we're cutting each other down, because in all, most people aren't as psyched about saxophone as we are, so we're all just trying to get there together. And as freelancers, it can be thoroughly challenging to separate the concepts of scarcity versus growth mindset. But reminding ourselves of their differences is crucial. With a scarcity mindset, we perceive that there is a fixed amount of opportunity for all of us to share. And this is dangerous because if it were true, then none of us would work very much. If there were only 5 gigs for all of us to split, well then 99.9% of us would never work. But that's not the case. Instead, we need to shift to a growth mindset where we realize that the success of our peers creates more opportunities for all of us. So if your peer plays a gig at a wedding, instead of being upset that you weren't hired or that they made X amount of money on that gig, remember that they just introduced the idea of having a saxophonist at a wedding to several hundred guests. And that is a magical distinction that we can make. So a couple of things to leave you with to consider. First, is remember to be honest. Social media is social after all, so it's key to maintain your sense of humor or share where you find inspiration. We want to learn about your personality and who you are as a musician and a human being through your profile. Maintain a strong sense of visual intention. Use images that exude professionalism and support the kind of position that you're trying to get. If you aspire to teach at the college level, that looks very different than if you aspire to tour with a rock band and hang out in dive bars. It's very different. It looks very different. And both are equally powerful, but you need to choose what you're trying to present yourself as. And finally, if you do use multiple platforms like Twitter and Facebook or YouTube, each of these platforms has a different purpose and attracts a unique type of user. So the rules, quote unquote, for each of them are different. For example, you should feel free to tweet as much as your heart desires, but if we're posting on Instagram the same number of times daily that we're tweeting, we might find ourselves with a little bit too much content being produced on Instagram. And finally, I just want to do a quick sidebar about YouTube, which is not something that I engage with on a grand scheme, but is something that is definitely relevant to the music industry as a whole. So if you have the capability and the interest, especially if you write your own music, I think it would be smart to consider investing some more time in YouTube. Studies show it is the leading platform for music streaming right now. So a couple of things to keep in mind with YouTube is that those hashtags we were talking about earlier apply as well. You can check your channel analytics to see how people are finding your account, as in what they're searching for to end up at your videos. And consider including common misspellings, like spelling saxophone with 2 A's, because even though we all wish everybody knew how to play saxophone, or spell saxophone rather, they perhaps don't, and we don't want that to inhibit them from finding your videos. Descriptions are an amazing way to get lots of information associated with your video included. There's a much larger text limit, if there is a text limit at all, for those description boxes than there may be in a caption on Instagram, for example. And if you're not interested in engaging with YouTube, that's fine. I admittedly do not very much. At the minimum, I encourage you to search your name, because you want to kind of see what pops up. Are you happy with what comes up when you search your name on YouTube? Does it show that you have competent skills? Or if nothing comes up, which is possible, try searching saxophone and plus the name of your city. What comes up for that? What comes up when you type in saxophone plus Nashville, or saxophone plus Atlanta? What comes up? Is it you? Are you the face that comes up when somebody searches saxophone plus Nashville? If it's not, then do you want it to be you that comes up when they search that? Is it high quality saxophone playing? Does it accurately represent what's possible for the players that are in your city? These are all important questions you can ask yourself if you're interested in engaging with the YouTube platform. So finally, I just want to leave you with this takeaway, the ultimate takeaway, if you will, to remember that we are all on the same team. So supporting one another online is key. Your follower count and the likes that you receive on your photos don't indicate your worth or your hireability as a freelancer. So I encourage you to keep everything in perspective. And at the end of the day, when you are hired, because you will be hired, to show up prepared and do the job well and make us proud as a community of saxophonists, so that we'll all continue to be hired in that growth mindset that we're all going to now adopt. So I've included my course Instagram handle there at the top, and my email address and website, which were also included in the event page for this talk on this wonderful online forum that we have. So I think what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna switch the camera back around to my face, see if I can't relinquish the duty of holding up my phone from my coffee cup to perhaps another vessel. And we'll go ahead and take some questions. And there I am. Thanks all for tuning in. So I would be happy to take any of your questions now. You can just kind of leave them in the comments below and we'll get to them one at a time. There was one that came through that asked if this was going to be recorded and available for future viewing. It definitely, that's the goal, is that this will stay up on the page afterwards for those of us who are on California time and had to teach. Thank you for teaching. Thank you for your service. Happy to answer any questions about the presentation or about my experiences as a freelancer. So fire away. I'm totally happy to stick around for a bit. I've got my cup of coffee, so it is no longer holding up my cell phone. It is not warm anymore though. Well, nobody's asking any questions, so it must have been perfect. That can't possibly be true. All right, here we go. Any recommendations for AV tech to generate content? For example, mics, video gear, etc. I'm not tech savvy, so could use some guidance, particularly with generating good quality audio. That's a great question. I would say if I were to liken this to saxophone related thing, we'd say to our students that one of the quickest ways to improve your sound is to purchase a professional level mouthpiece. I would say the same would go for audio recording equipment, i.e. a microphone. It's helpful to have a higher quality microphone, especially now in our days of teaching remotely. I can go grab the one that I use if that would be helpful. I just use the Yeti Blue. It's a very popular microphone. It runs you about $100. It's a USB microphone, so it can plug straight into your computer. If I'm recording remotely from home, I record using that microphone and just into my laptop. So I'll grab that if that would be helpful. It looks like this. It's the Blue Yeti. Like I said, it's about $100. You can get it on Amazon. Shout out, it's an Estonian company, and I'm also Estonian, so. Yeah, Blue Yeti. I'd say the microphone would be the most helpful. In terms of a camera, I mostly just use my phone. All right, a question from my former teacher, Josh. I'm curious roughly how many gigs or opportunities you have gotten from your online material. I'm not sure if I can quantify that. At this point, I just assume that when I put in for a gig, i.e. I respond to an ad saying I'm looking for a saxophone player, I always include basically 3 links. I include my email address, my website link, and my social media profile. So I just assume that people look at my Instagram to sort of vet me and vet my playing. So I make sure that I, with a fair amount of consistency, post clips of my playing, whether they're just from home practice sessions or whatnot, or gigs that I play, to make sure that people are, you know, they can hear me play on my Instagram, so they can sort of do their own vetting that way. But I don't know that I can quantify rather. Ciao from Italy. Ooh, wow, Italy. We're wondering, are you from Nashville? And if not, how long did it take for you to establish connections and start getting regular gigs there? I am not from Nashville. I grew up in the Boston area, did my undergraduate degrees at Connecticut College. I have a master's degree from Louisiana State, and I moved to Nashville after that. I've been here for about 3.5 years. It took me about 3 months before I landed my first paying gig here in Nashville. I like to think that this is a wonderful musical community with a smaller amount of saxophonists than perhaps drummers or guitarists. But the notion that Nashville is a city only for country music is definitely not the case. So I'd say I've been here about 3.5 years. I'd say it took me easily a year to a year and a half to really feel settled and feel like I had networked and made the connections in order to start getting hired for stuff. I know that that's nobody's favorite answer, but definitely the networking was huge, and the making of connections with other saxophonists and other band leaders, etc., was kind of important, and that takes some time. Is this, meaning I'm assuming social media, something we simply have to do nowadays, or does the effort seem to pay off for you? I mean, I would say that the effort pays off. It's important to me that I maintain my profiles, just because I assume people will look at them when they consider hiring me. So I don't want to give them any excuse to not hire me because they can't find a clip of me playing, if that makes sense. So, I mean, to each their own. Again, I think it kind of comes back to what types of things you're trying to get hired for. You know, if you love teaching and teaching fulfills you, and you feel like you have enough performance opportunities nowadays, then that's great. You know, you've done it. You're living the dream, as they say. For me personally, I am still trying to grow my freelance clients, or still trying to grow that portion of my performance life. So I'm willing to put in the effort that's required to maintain my profiles so that I can keep getting the things. What is your thought on personal Instagram accounts versus saxophone exclusive Instagram accounts? Worth managing both, or should we keep them separate? That's a great question. The kids nowadays are using the term Finsta, or fake Instagram, which they keep like private and is more for their close friends, which is, I mean, it's totally to each their own. I don't feel like there's any content that I wouldn't post for everybody to see on my public profile. I do keep my profile public because as part of my business, I've accepted the fact that this is something people are going to seek out and look at. So I don't want to make it restricted for people to look at. But I don't have a second account, I guess is my answer. If you kind of have different things that you're interested in posting in both, then that's sort of up to you. That seems like a lot for me to manage personally, but I wouldn't say that you need to keep them separate. I think I mentioned running is a big hobby of mine, and it's something that I want to share and showcase on my profile. I think it humanizes me and sort of differentiates me as from just being a saxophonist, that I'm also a trail runner. And it has the effect of also bringing in a totally different audience into my profile, which gets more eyes on my content. So people look at my profile not just because I'm a saxophonist, but also because I'm a trail runner. And so I get more people engaging in my stuff, if that makes sense. I don't know if I answered that question. Comment below again if I didn't answer that. All right, from Nick, if you're a musician in between projects, what would you consider the best page to link from your Instagram to a personal website? I'm kind of confused as to your question, Nick. We had talked about, I think you're referencing something at the beginning, which was asking yourself, what is the destination that you want people to end up at? So I used your website as an example of some place you might want to end up at, because it kind of keeps all of your information in one place. For example, if you're selling CDs, or you have charts that you have written, or all your tour dates are listed, that might be a good place to send people. But if you're in between projects, I mean, there's just, I don't know, that's up to you. I think personal preference. I do include my website on my Instagram profile. That is the link that I include. I try to be good about updating my website with gig dates and all of that. So that is kind of the destination I want people to end up at. It gives them a little bit more of an insight into my life and career. But in between projects, I don't know, are we ever really in between projects? I don't know. Again, if that did not answer your question, then pop another one in there. And from Kevin, do you record every single thing you perform live, and how particular are you about using these recordings for promotion? Not even at all do I record every single thing I perform live. No, I definitely don't record probably anything. Any videos that I have posted from performances or gigs were taken by friends or peers or colleagues that were in attendance. I don't film my own performances simply for the purpose of creating content, no. Or, record them live. The clips of my playing are either from my home or from practice sessions or gigs that are sort of crowdsourced, for lack of a better term. Alrighty. Well, I'm definitely game to hang out if there are more questions. I don't want to cut anybody off, but if you have enjoyed this, I hope you have. I appreciate once again Nathan Knabb for putting all this together. This has been quite the feat, and it has totally exploded, which is so wonderful. This is going to be a great resource for all of us. If you have additional questions, I'll maybe stay live for a couple more minutes. If not, feel free to reach out via my Instagram page or my email. I'll put my email in the comments or something to relate to this. So you can reach out if you'd like. And yeah, I appreciate everybody saying nice things. That's so great. It's great to hear. All right, we've got one more question. What is the process of getting sponsors / product endorsements via your social accounts? Is social media a way that you can get them? Or are there other avenues to explore, not necessarily talking about becoming a Selmer or Yamaha artist, but maybe other products? Great question. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. I am, a young artist and a young professor, so I am starting to begin that process for myself of seeking out companies and brands that are interested in working with me. I do tend to put a decent amount of energy and effort into my social media, specifically my Instagram page. So that is definitely something I mention to brands, because it would not be a stretch for me to promote their product on my page. But I think we're all still sort of negotiating this sponsorship endorsement thing on social media in the saxophone world. I think we're just sort of starting to dip our toes into that. So we'll figure it out together. We'll wade the waters together. I am not currently working with any brands because of my social media in the saxophone world, for sure. So I don't know what the process is. If I figure it out, I will let you know. But you can always tag those products that you're interested in working with in your photos to get their attention. Can't hurt. Alrighty. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you all once again. Thanks, Nathan, for doing this. I think I'm gonna wrap this up, and y'all should stay tuned. There's just so many wonderful presenters that are coming up. I believe that the next one is on Thursday. Check that schedule, and continue to tune in. And if there are folks, students, peers, colleagues that you would like to share this with, I'm going to just do my absolute best to not delete it, because I don't want to do that. We're gonna keep this archived up on the page for everybody to come back to as needed. So, all right, thanks, friends. Talk to you soon.